All right. Let's get this going. Switching over.
Cool.
All right. Oh, 1 second here. Let's get this going. Awesome. All right, we're cooking. So, welcome to the Astroneer live dev. Bit of housekeeping before I jump into things. My name is Adam. Actually, let me switch over to a different camera here, just so I'm sort of talking to everybody. There we go. Perfect. So yeah, hey, my name's Adam. I'm one of the founders of System Era, and we are building a game called Astroneer. And one of the bigger things that I work on the game is a lot of the world and planet related stuff, and it's fun to work on it. So I have to imagine it's fun to see it get worked on, and I'll do my best to explain things in a way that is interesting. I'm not normally a streamer, so any feedback as I go is awesome, and we'll do our best here to make Astroneer development fun because, like I said, working on it is fun, and the game is super fun. So we'll just jump right in. So, and I'm actually going to take you guys from the very beginning here. So I don't even have Unreal launched, and we're just going to launch it and jump in. Yeah, so we're going to build a planet for Astroneer, and the way that our game works is it's not really about playing on one planet. It's also not about exploring however many quintillion planets that are out there for us to see, but it's about this sort of intimate experience on your solar system. So you'll have a sun, you'll have some orbiting bodies around the sun, and they'll have things like moons and stuff like that you can explore. A few months ago, we built a moon on Twitch that did really well. And if I get some time at the end, I'll go back and load that up so we can sort of see the state that moon is in now. It's been updated slightly. But today we're going to build a planet, and I have something fun and somewhat a bit familiar, which I think would be fun to look at. And that is a planet type called an arid planet type. And one of the things that we do with our planet design, and I'm just trying to get my browser working here. Just 1 second. One of the things that we do, here we go, bring that over, going to launch Unreal for us, is we looked at 4X games that are out there as some inspiration in terms of like how we might theme our planets, for people to explore. And then that theme would help for somebody like myself who's building them so that we can sort of define the rules that the procedural system uses when it's building the planets. So we looked at that. We looked at 4X games like Masters of Orion, Sins of a Solar Empire, any game that's sort of out there that really explores the sort of strengthened planets. So the planet type that we're going to build, and I'll load it up here on my browser, on my Pinterest actually, and I can drop the link in the chat for you guys, is an arid planet type. And that's somewhat familiar because it might look a little Marsy, but one of the things that we like to do with Astroneer is we usually take color schemes and flip the script on those. So I'll drop my Pinterest in the chat for you guys on Twitch if you want to sort of look at that while I'm looking at it. And I'm going to pull this up a lot while I'm building it. And the things that I do when I'm putting these together, I'm not looking for a lot of images. I'm just looking for strong images, and sometimes apparently the same image twice. I'll fix that up later. But I like to look at things like color palettes, shapes, landscape types. So, for instance, flat landscapes with these large sort of plateaus with some sort of smaller details in there. We don't have water in Astroneer yet, but that's sort of a thing that we'd go back to. And it looks like Unreal has loaded. So you'll see me jump between Unreal and Pinterest as we go through. And we are starting fresh. So it's a fresh scene in Unreal. It's got one planet in there, which is going to be bare. It's going to be white and bare. So it's this little cue ball. And if I drop an Astroneer in, you can see me run around. Sorry, if you ever see me, if I'm talking and then I pause, it's just because I'm checking the chat really quickly. So this is just a bald planet. I put some rocks on here because I usually just like to start with them, but sometimes I'll replace them with other shapes, but at least they're in there now. And already it's deformable. I can start sort of playing around with it. That's just sort of given based on the tech that we have. I can do little fun things like this. Oops, let's continue that all the way down. And of course it's completely physical. Oh, I don't want to die either while I'm doing this, so I'm going to give myself free power and make myself invincible. And then we'll just do some... Oh, I'm still deforming. Add that back. And of course, like all of our terrain deformation, it's completely physical as well, so you can travel up it, build things on it, attach things to it. It's really fun. So yeah, so we have a bald planet, and our goal is to make something that we would say is arid. And I think the definition of arid planets are they look dry, they're a little desolate, they may be low on resources for the player. But one of the reasons that you're going to go to this planet is because it's probably going to offer you discoveries that are not seen on other planets. So things that you might come across, challenges that you might have to face, rewards that you'll get for facing them. The rewards that you'll have as you're facing them will define that planet as well. And other things like weather changes, color palettes, things like that. So usually the first thing I'll do is I'll establish a base color palette. And we use color palettes for all of our planets. It's not the same palette every time it generates. It's going to choose from a list of palettes. But for this time, just for our sanity, I'm going to pick one. And we do that. Now this is the blueprint for the entire planet itself. And as we go through, it'll get layers and layers deep into the onion that is the planet. But for now, all I'm looking to do is find my test biome, which is called Flatlands Arid. And I just set this up about an hour before the meeting just to give myself something to work from. There's nothing in here just yet, except for those cubes. So I'm going to find a palette. Oh, it actually already has a palette on it, but it doesn't seem to be. Let's see what's going on here. It doesn't seem to be taking it. So I'm going to go ahead and change that palette, and let's see what happens when I do that. Oh, actually, I know why. So the palette's there. It's called Red Dusty. It's going to be like red and dusty colors. And I'm going to go ahead and apply the first layer that we usually do. So it's not just the surface that I need to worry about. It's also all the way down into the core, because we can go right into the planets and sort of dig through them and discover caves and other sort of secrety stuff that we're going to keep for when we launch. But there's not just the surface that I have to worry about when I'm building these planets. I have to worry about the insides of it as well. And the first layer of that is sort of a height map that gets imprinted onto this planet. So let's go ahead and do that now. And I'm going to call this, I'm going to do the first layer of the sort of terrain. So if we go back and look at my Pinterest board, I'm going to base this one. I really like this one a lot. I think this is a strong one. So I'm going to do the flat parts first, and then we'll do the sort of plateauing stuff, and then we'll do variations of that. So let's work on the flat stuff first. Now you're going to say this is flat already, but too flat is boring. We need some interesting stuff there. So the first thing we do is we find ourselves a height map. I'm just going to check these chats, make sure I'm not missing anything that I need to address. So the specs that I'm using on my computer, I can tell you guys those, but it's going to be kind of irrelevant, just because we are looking to go as low spec as possible with this game. But just for the sake of transparency, my computer is running a 1070. I've got an i7 and about 32 gigs of RAM. I'm a developer, so I've got a high-end computer. I've had this, as best a computer I can have for the last 10 years as I've been making games. So I just want to reiterate that my computer specs is not anywhere indicative of what the sort of min spec and recommended specs will be for Astroneer once we announce that stuff. Okay, so height maps. And we're just going to start seeing some changes happen right away super quickly. And the first thing I need to do is find that height map. So I'm looking for something flat, but also with a bit of details. And sometimes I lean on this one. We'll just open this up. And for those of you that don't know what a height map is, it's pretty simple. This is going to get projected down onto the surface. The whiter areas are going to go up. The darker areas are going to go down. And anything that's sort of right gray, right in the middle, will stay on the level. So if I just sort of take this one called WM006, and we apply that to our planet, and I hit save, and we rebuild, we'll see some height come in right away. Oh, I used the wrong modifier. If Jacob's watching, he's probably been yelling at me to change it. Change your modifier, or change your component. Okay, here we go. Doing it again. Going to rebuild that. Going to add ourselves a little layer here, which I'm going to show in a second. And now you can start to see that there's some information coming through here. There's a bit of height variance. If I run around really quickly, we can see what that looks like. Oh, drop through the planet. That's okay. Also, I mentioned some house cleaning stuff at the beginning. I'll mention some additional stuff. So this game is still in development. We are using Unreal. Unreal's still in development. So there's going to be some wonky stuff that happens here and there. I'm almost going to guarantee that we're going to crash to the desktop, which is totally fine. Because I'm going to save my work often. Unreal does a great job of restoring stuff when we lose it. So if you see some weird stuff, just keep in mind the game's in development, and also the tools that we're using are also in development. So just to full screen this super quickly, and I saw a question while I looked over really quickly about what do we use for our height maps. We actually we do a mixture of a program called World Machine. We sometimes sculpt them. We also just hand paint them depending on what we need. I believe this one was made from World Machine. So yeah, so this is a really subtle bit of flatness here. There's some dips and stuff. I'm just kind of getting a sense of the scale of the hills. Now, because our worlds are not to scale of what we'd see in the galaxy, things like the horizon and how close that feels to the player is always sort of important. We don't want you to always constantly feel like you're about to drop off a cliff, so I'm always sort of paying attention to that stuff. And one of the things that helps that feeling actually, or helps against that feeling actually, is when we start getting decorators in there that sort of break that horizon line. It starts to feel like it's getting bigger once we see those things. So for a first pass, I think this is fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start getting that color palette on there. The voice of the video is not synchronized. Oh, that's not cool. So my lips are moving, but my audio does not sound like me. Or my audio sounds like me, but it's in the future or in the past. That's not cool. Okay, so we got the height map. I'm going to choose a color really quickly. I'm going to choose another color really quickly, and I'm going to go back and explain what I'm doing with that. So that red dusty dark, and this is an example of a color palette. We have three primary colors that every planet reads from. We have the primary color, we have the secondary color, and we have, oh, the camera is behind on the audio. I'm sorry guys, I don't know if I'm going to be able to fix that live here. Well, one thing we do, if it gets annoying, just let me know, and I can always just kill the... hello from Siberia. Hello, Siberia. One of the things that we can do is if it gets annoying, just let me know, and I can always kill the camera feed, and it can just be my voice and the editor. That is also useful. My face is definitely not the best part of the stream. So here's a palette. So I've got sort of this sort of dusty rose color. I've got a brown tan color, and then a tertiary color, which is this sort of blue gray. So we build these color palettes. They're supposed to be these nice sort of complementary colors. And then what happens is in layers that are getting applied to the planet, I choose which colors I want that layer to be. And I can show you this really quickly. So we have a nifty feature here where I can cut away the planet and rebuild it. So you can see here there's some depth on this planet now. And this is the primary color on the top. This is the secondary. And the tertiary is not getting applied because I haven't picked it anywhere. But you can see how I can start choosing these things, and once I start getting a little... Oh, uh-oh. Unreal's crashing, I believe. Oh, there we go. It's catching up. Okay. So once we sort of get into that stuff, I can start playing around with, the strength of the height map, how big the hills are, how flat the areas that are flat are. And let me just demo a bit of that for you here. What is this? Oh, that was up there. Okay, so I'm going to quickly name this to flat because I just want to remember what it is there for. Oh wait, what is that? That was the terrain biome property. This is the one I want to call flat. And again, that's just for me. And we're going to do something crazy like spike this up by 2 times the power of its normal height, so we should see these mountains get a little thicker. And then I can start doing some cool stuff just to sort of demonstrate why we use different colors. Is that now that I've sort of told it to flatten it at a certain area, we can see the secondary color mixed with the primary. If I turn off the cutaway, rebuild that sucker, I'm going to save it, and then I'm going to hit play. We're going to run around. Hey Preston, what's up, man? Thanks for watching, dude. All right, so you can see this planet's a little bit flat. And if you've seen a lot of our coverage of the game, these colors might look familiar. This is a color palette that we've had for a while. but I'm pretty fond of it, and we might do a second variation of it tonight if we have time. So you can kind of see here, here's the secondary color on this side, here's the primary color, and if I do things like dig into this, we'll see it slowly breaks through and then breaks into that secondary color. That's a good way for us to show terrain depth. Now if I take a quick look, you can see the depth there. There's a nice little sandy shader on that. I don't know if that's going to come over the stream, but I promise you it looks pretty. Okay, so we're starting to get some flat areas. I'm still, the scale of things is okay. I'm going to try to actually make it a little bit flatter, and then I'm going to do some techniques here, and I'll show you this really quickly. I'm going to go a little bit flatter, just to kind of get a bit more rolling hills, and then we're going to do some of the spiky stuff that sort of comes out, these low hills that look like wind-swept areas that over time have become these hard rocky areas. So I'm going to go back to that height stuff that we are futzing with, and I'm trying to fly through this so that we don't spend too much time on a lot of stuff, so that we can sort of jump in and actually get a plan of going here. So I'm going to reduce that back down to 1. I'm going to rebuild it just to kind of see the change really quickly. Now that might be a little too thick, but one thing we can do is lower. So what I'm going to do is this is sort of like a flat plane that's sort of rising through that height map, and that's how we're getting that flatness there. And I'm actually just going to push that down a little bit. Oh, maybe too far. Let's try somewhere in the middle of that. Change 0.35. Rebuild that. Okay, cool. I'm cool with this one. We're gonna stop there, just so we can keep going. I'm gonna quickly check the height map scale is massive. So let's change that to 50,000. Let's rebuild that. Just checking out the chat here really quickly, seeing if there's anything that I can jump into and address for you guys. Yeah, so I see somebody's asking about a beta. So we don't have a beta. I mean, for us, we're treating early access like a beta. I mean, obviously, this is going to be our release, and the game is going to be deep and fun and all that stuff. But we're just sort of doing a friends and family beta right now, and that's just to get some good, honest feedback about the stuff that we're doing, without having to deal with thousands and thousands of points of contact for that. So we have a couple hundred friends that are in there and playing it for us. The feedback has been incredible, and we don't really have any plans, I think, to do any sort of closed beta or anything like that. We're just going to jump right into early access later this year. I saw some questions about the release date. We're working on that stuff now. We're putting all the marketing together for it. We do have dates to start talking about soon, but tonight on the stream, unfortunately, I won't be jumping into any of that stuff. Okay, so we've got some flat land that's kind of flat, but it's also kind of bulbous, which is okay. Also, this is an arid planet, and I think the expectation of a player arriving here is that it's going to be somewhat of a challenge. So I'm okay with like turbulent terrain, things that it's hard to navigate, because we do want to challenge the player on every front, including just sort of walking around on the planet. Not to the point where it's obnoxious and difficult, but at least to a point, especially when you start getting into rovers and other vehicles, that you have to really be considerate about where you're driving. So we have something that's a little bit flat. And now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, let's see, how do I want to treat this? I can do one of two things. I'm going to experiment really quickly and see if I can actually still do this. I haven't tried this in a while. And I'm going to do it, and then if it works, I'm going to explain what I did. And if it doesn't work, I'm just going to move on. I'm going to choose a different height map really quickly. Something with a bit more noise, like that guy. Let's plug that guy in. I'm going to save it, because if this doesn't work, there's a chance it's going to crash. I'm going to rebuild. Okie dokie. Let's see. I'm going to go 1.6. Rebuild. So I think what I'll do instead. So what I was trying to do is combine two different height maps, and I'm going to change the power of the bottom one to sort of push through the other one and create these large sort of plateauing areas. But the details of this is way too big. Now that could be my height map, so let's just quickly see what it looks like when it's smaller. I think this is going to be too much though. Yeah, that's a little too much of what I want. Although that does look cool. Here, let's run around that really quickly. So talking about terrain, sorry, there's a question here or a comment. Talking about terrain, I'm still concerned about the terrain deforming being able to make hazards such as sandstorms pointless. So that's a good point to raise, especially if terrain deformation is free, and I don't think it will be. It is right now because we're just sort of wanting people to really jump in and play with it and able to, have fun with it. But if terrain deformation has a cost where you have to sort of find dirt before you can add dirt, it's also going to cost power, which you need to survive. That there's going to be a trade-off of, do you want to run and find a cave, or do you want to, what's going on here? Come on, wake up, Unreal. Do you want to run and find a cave, or do you want to build yourself like a little thing like this? So you could do something like this. Oh no, here comes a sandstorm. Give yourself a little bit of shelter. And if you imagine this having a huge cost to it, where I actually need the dirt before I can add the dirt, or a huge power cost, then all of a sudden this is not such a cop-out for getting out of terrain. Heavy rain, things like that. Anyway, I'm looking at this stuff. It's way too dense. It's also way too high. So why don't we go ahead and lower that really quickly. Where are we going here? Here we go. Carl75 asks if we're going to add water to the early access release. I would say no, just because we have a lot of other stuff to solve. But water is excuse me, my voice squeaked right there. But water is definitely something that we are all fans of in games like this. So I would be surprised if Astroneer never has water in it. I'll just say that. So I actually want something with a bit more noise, I think. I'm just gonna grab this. I'm gonna grab this guy. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna edit this, make sure it's usable really quickly. It is not. Switch that over. I won't bore you guys with what's going on there. Just fly through this really quickly. Okay, I'm gonna plug that in. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this is getting into some of that noise that I like, and I'm gonna do something. I'm going to change the scale of it so that they get a little closer together, because the beats between them, I think we want to have a bit of a high frequency, but not too much. So I'm going to do that by changing the scale. And now, and what you can kind of see this is a layer on top, and then that older height map is down there underneath. But I actually may switch it instead of, so what I've done so I use there's a thing that we have in Unreal called an additive modifier that basically just takes two of whatever I feed it and combines them as one. So in this case, I took one height map and I'm feeding it with another, and they both have their set of rules, and they're sort of getting projected onto the world at the same time. Sorry if this has been asked, but what are your thoughts on using the Unreal Engine for the development of Astroneer? So myself and others on the team, we have professional experience with Unreal from our time in the AAA space. And, a couple of years ago, we were using Unity. This was before Unreal 4 was a thing. And when Unreal 4 came out, we sort of all scratched our chin saying it would be nice to come back into a dev environment that we were used to. So we gave Unreal a try. We showed our game to the guys at Unreal. They really liked what we were doing with our voxel engine and things like that. And as soon as we jumped back into Unreal, it was very familiar to us. And I think that's the biggest thing to us. It's super familiar. It's the definition of out of the box. So we get a lot of features that come out of the box for us, and we're able to just jump right in. So I think I can speak on the behalf of the team and say that we're all really big fans of Unreal, the Unreal Engine and Epic. Okay, so let's run around this and see what this looks like. And again, I'm just going to run back here and we're going to take a quick look. So we're trying to get some little noisy spots between flat areas like that. And I oftentimes have to sort of ignore scale, because our game is as close to scale as possible within its own scale. So we have tiny planets, so sometimes things get a little fatter, they get a little cuter. Oh, I don't want to die, so I'm going to run around. So yeah, we're starting to get these little areas here, which is kind of cool. Very nice, very nice. Yeah, this is great. I like this. And again, the colors will change, and every time I generate, so I can show you guys this. So I fly out, every time I generate it, we'll get a new layout within the same sort of set of rules that I've fed it already, which is kind of nice. So this is sort of one biome that we're going to work on right now, and then we're going to combine that with other biomes, and then we're eventually going to make a planet. And actually, I think this is a good opportunity to jump over to another map. Actually, I won't jump over to another map. I'll just bring another planet into here. Let's do that. Just so that I can also demonstrate sort of where we're going with this. I'm going to bring in the Tundra planet. And I'm going to swap it out with this planet. Get out of here, planet. You go over here. Where's that Tundra? We're going to zero it out. 0, 0, 0. I'm going to save, because you never know. And rebuild. Yeah, the things like the rate that the planet turns at, the rate that the sun goes at. Again, those things will all be things that we tune. And also, don't expect things that are completely scientifically accurate. We take our liberties whenever we need to, so that we can ensure things are more fun and adventurous than they are extremely tied to realism. So this is a tundra type of planet, and if I hit reseed, we'll see new builds of it. We'll do it again. How many planets can we expect to have access to in EA? So there's going to be about 7 types of planets, but that doesn't mean there's 7 planets for you to enjoy. There's 7 types of planets. So we have there's a Terran type. There's one called Arid, which is what we're building today. The one in front of us right now is called Tundra. And those are just sort of sets of rules and things so that players can have an expectation of when they arrive at. So if it's a Terran type of planet, that might be more Earth-like in atmosphere, colors, landscape. A Tundra planet, maybe a little chillier, a lot more mountainous, some vegetation in the flatlands. If it's an exotic planet, we're going to see some more alien-style landscapes, certainly some alien-looking plants, things like that. But every time you visit these planets, like if you sat there and visited 10 exotic planets, you get 10 different planets, but they're just sort of an exotic type. Okay, so let's. I'm just going to quickly jump into this Tundra planet just to sort of set an expectation of where we're going. I don't think we're going to get here tonight for 2 reasons. One, it takes a little bit more than a couple hours to build a planet. Oh, I haven't. Oh, this is going to be crazy. So it's every planet I visit now is new for me as well. So I set up the rules. The planets get built, but I certainly have no idea what to expect when I go into these. And I'm going to full screen this because I just noticed that there is a giant ass cave system down there. So I'm going to let Unreal finish building. It's a little slower when it starts doing that. You can see it's a little choppy. There's a couple bugs here where there's like some space stuff floating in the sky that we'll fix up before we go. But let's take a little. Oh, it fell through the world. That's not good. Okay. Let's take a little walk around. So this planet has no resources. It hasn't gone through designers' hands yet. It's just been a visual pass so far. So there's no hazards. There's no things to collect. No things to really discover. You can interact with the plants that are around, but there's not much. There's not much to it besides just the sort of characteristics of the planet, if that makes any sense. So I don't want to kill myself, so let's just go ahead and get down here. It should be enough so I don't kill myself coming out of here, so let's just sort of slide down it. I'm trying to avoid that giant cave there because there's some fun stuff in there I don't want to spoil for you guys. Oh, we can take a little look. Let's go just run by it really quickly. Look at that. Some fun stuff in there. So I'm going to cheat and we're going to fly around this planet super fast. just so that we can sort of get out of this ice biome, which I think is on the cap of the planet. And again, you won't be able to do this in the game, so don't expect to do this, and you're going to see all this sort of choppy behavior and things loading in. This is me sort of using a debug menu to quickly fly through. This is sometimes how I'll test planets to see how their biomes are coming together. Wow, this ice biome is massive. You know, here, let's do this. I'm going to stop the build. I'm just going to put my camera right down here. And I'm going to tell the game to build, play from here. Yeah, guys, we'll have a lot of news about our release date coming up soon, but nothing on the stream today. Okay, so this is another part of the planet. I'm now away from the ice stuff. This is the more sort of low-lying tundra area. It's very atmospheric. Again, there's no resources, there's no hazards, there's no weather. This is just my pass on the terrain and the sort of characteristics of the planet itself before Jacob, our game designer, gets his hands on it and sort of starts plugging in all that fun stuff that you'll get to do, besides just like sucking up plants like this. And again, you're not going to be doing any of this stuff that I'm doing where I'm quickly jumping through it wherever my cursor is. This is just a developer debug tool so that we can quickly see the biomes and how they relate to each other. Anyway, so we're jumping in. The expectation is to end up with a planet that sort of generates like this. Now that I've shown you, I'm going to put this off to the side. Maybe we can come back to it later, but I want to continue on this arid planet. And also, this is good for me because I actually just need to get this work done. So this is definitely a useful time. So we're going to save. Hey, what's up, Val? Thanks for joining, dude. Redbreaker, we will be supporting 4-player co-op at launch, peer-to-peer. So you can definitely play with your friends. And if people want to break the code so they can fly their little Astroneer around, then more power to them, I'm sure. Okay, so we have a basic biome. It's a little boring. It's kind of flat, but that's okay because so is this stuff. And we're going to make it look good as we get through it. And again, this is just one biome. So what I'm going to do before I get into... Oh, so here's a bug. So what happens is we get a bug where the leftover stuff, and actually let me just rebuild this super quickly and see if that fixes it. But these are like leftover props from the tundra planet, but we don't want them here. So let me just quickly rebuild. So those did not go anywhere, so I'm just going to manually delete them all. Hopefully not crash the editor. I'm going to save. And fingers crossed, I'm going to rebuild. And we should not be seeing any more of the ice stuff on this planet. Okay. So again, this landscape's just getting started. It's just there. But what now I want to do is I want to jump over and quickly build those sort of mesas or those rock plateaus. And we're going to start combining those two things together. Okay, so we have the Flatlands arid. I'm going to find that because I want to see if I have another arid one in here, but I don't think I do. So I'm going to duplicate it just so I have something started from, and we're going to say, let's call it mesas. Arid 01. And now this is just the name of a biome. And you'll see a lot of stuff has like 01 on it or 01A, and that's just because everything gets variations of itself, so that in addition to it just being procedurally generated from one version, we can then also do different variations of that, and then those will also generate variations if that makes any sense. So we're gonna, now this is a copy of the one that we just started with, but I'm going to get rid of that additive. We're gonna go back to just the flat. I'm gonna plug that in here, and we're gonna rebuild really quickly. So we're sort of back to that original planet, that sort of original height map that we had. And now what I want to do is find one that would be good to build sort of these mesa things out of, and I'm going to use this guy. Hit save. Rebuild. We'll take a look at that. At 0. I'm going to flatten it so I don't have any of this flatline anymore. We're just going to go back to a solid red. I just kind of want to see the shape that this is generating on its own. So I'm going to go 0.2, bring up some of the flat again. And actually, while we're doing this, why don't I just go ahead and throw another palette on there, just so that we can see some changes happening that aren't just terrain changes. So I'm going to do green, natural, sandy. There's another one. Now, this doesn't necessarily make sense for an arid planet, this color palette, but at least it's the opposite of red, and as I generate, we can sort of see the color swapping. Of course, it's now only building from green. Oh, there we go. There's red. Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is just for me to see change. There's some of this in here. I think that's too low. I'm gonna go ahead and call this Mesa, and then I'm gonna add another. I'm gonna crank that sucker up to like 3. Make that primary light. So there's, like I said, in the color palettes, there's 3 main colors. There's primary, secondary, and tertiary. And because I am a sucker for variation, we also do a light version and a dark version of each one of those 3 colors. So these definitely do not look like mesas, but they will start to once we start putzing around a bit here with this. So I'm going to drop that down to 2. And then let's start getting silly. I'm going to go 0.2. 0.4. What I'm trying to do is I want to have a little bit of that dark green at the bottom, and then most of the volume of the mesas will be this sort of light green or the primary light color. And that's just because I think I can weight it and make it feel bigger by doing that, and I'll sort of demonstrate that once I get there. So I said 0.25 rebuild. Let's go 0.35. Okay, so now I'm going to take this bad boy and scorch him up as high as I'll go. And what's going on now? Well, let's do something silly like 6. I'm going to quickly just throw in a different height map and just see the results I get with a different height map really quickly here. Let's throw this guy on and see what happens. Save. Rebuild. Hey, it's looking a little bit better. The scale's kind of silly, but that's okay. I'm going to drop that back down, rebuild. I have a rabbit gun. Oh, that's an awesome name, dude. I have a rabbit gun as asking. About console versions, PC versions, stuff like that. Well, I mean, all of us on the team, I say this often, but it's true, is that we're always fans of stuff on the team, and that because of that, I would always be surprised to find out if we didn't go to consoles. But we're focused on the Steam build. We'd obviously love to see it on console, but for now, we're just sort of looking at the Steam build, and we're focused on that. Okay, jumping back in here. Now let's look at the scale of this really quickly. Yeah, sorry, and I'm just sort of talking myself. I'm talking as I go through this stuff, just so that I can quickly explain what it is I'm doing. If this is a little boring, I apologize, but I'm trying to get some repeating shapes, but that's okay, because once things start to mix together, it all kind of goes away. I'm gonna just keep cycling height maps here, just to kind of see results that I'm getting. No, although that would have been kind of cool for the other one that we were doing. Let's check out this guy. Nope, that's a silly one. I'm going to look at one more, and then I'm going to jump back if I can remember. Ooh. See, now this is interesting. This is interesting for a lot of reasons. So this is what I was sort of talking about before, where I wanted that bottom color here. And that's because it's on a different slope. So it kind of has a slight incline, and then as soon as it hits that green color, it just goes straight up. And that's because these two layers are on different different strengths. And again, I'll show you what I'm talking about with layers. We can cut this planet in half. And I'm going to hit save. So here's our secondary color. Here's our primary dark. Here's our primary light. So the primary color is this sort of green color. The secondary is this sort of teal color. And then the gray is just the color of the planet underneath it. Are we planning on supporting other languages? Yes, of course we are. What we support out of the gate, I can't really comment on because I don't know much about it just yet. The good news is that there isn't a lot of written text in our game, and I think the most of the written text that you're going to see is in like the escape menu when you're changing your video settings and stuff like that. A lot of our interfacing uses iconography and buttons and stuff like that, so we should be able to avoid a lot of the heavy lifting for localization, but for sure we want to support as many languages as we can. All right, so we kind of have these little mesa things. I like that this guy has like different little plateaus on them. It's sort of cascading, which is kind of cool. I'm not completely happy with it, but I think we have a starting point. And what I'm going to start doing is playing around with the strengths of things, and the scale of things. So obviously that's very noisy. So the first thing I want to do is just sort of spread it out. I'm going to do something like double its size. And when I say its size is if you think of this height map, I'm going to load up this height map again. So this is the height map I'm using, and obviously it has beginnings and ends on either side, and that sort of same thing is happening here. So imagine this in this exact size right here, getting printed right on there. That's sort of just how that works. It gets applied, and the scale is okay, and it's okay that you might see some repeating shapes because once it starts blending with the other biomes, a lot of that goes away. It's very hard to notice any of the repeat height maps, and I try to do my best to hide that stuff so it's never really noticeable. So we don't need that height map. We don't need the color palette. I tried the rescale. Let's see, rebuild it. So now what happens is we lose some of that frequency, but we gain some scale. And I think one of the things I like about the last one is that it was so flat, but I think I can just sort of force that. If I go and I reduce this guy, again, a lot of this, I'm not a pro at. A lot of this is us sort of building our tools for the first time. It's sort of us fooling around with it. So you might see me, you're definitely going to see me experimenting often and sort of seeing the results I get. There we go. That's starting to look a little flatter on top. I'm going to do something crazy and just go one more notch higher in scale. Rebuild. Whoa, that's ridiculous. That's way too big. I gotta drop that back down. Rebuild that really quickly. Oh shit. Or shoot. Rebuild. Okay, we're back. What did I do? What did I screw up here? 112. Yeah, I think that's a little too big. Although, I really, which one am I using on this one? I'm gonna throw. Okay, so which one's that? Somebody remember 026 in case I need to go back to that one. I'm gonna throw 005 on it. But 026 is the one I'm linking right now. But let's just go ahead and throw that on there. Yeah, no, we're gonna go back to the other one. That was 026. And we're gonna rebuild. Okay. So yeah, so we do have these big shapes. We have these sort of big volumes of terrain, which is kind of fine. But one thing I'm going to show now is sort of how these things come together. So we have the one biome, which is called Mesa. We have another one called Flatlands. And now what I'm going to quickly do is mix those together. Oh, there it is. Where is it? Where did I call it? It's called Mesa and then Flatland Arid. There it is. I'm going to save. I'm going to turn off the other biome because that was just a single biome. This is a monster one that's going to mix them all together for us. And by default, we're going to see a harsh line between the two biomes, but we can always spread that out a little bit. And just for posterity, I'm going to get rid of that second color. So again, here's that sort of harsh line that'll happen when it's blending these two together, but we can always spread that out, and I'll show you that in a second. But what we're seeing now is some of that sort of flatland that gets mixed in. Go back to that image. We're seeing some of the flatland that then gets mixed in with these giant sort of plateau things. These giant sort of mesa things. So first step is to spread that out a little bit. Let's see what this does. There we go. It's getting a little bit better. And I'm going to rebuild a couple times because I want to make sure that we're getting a nice good spread between the bigger mesas and that lower frequency stuff. The height maps that we use right now are brought in externally. We just sort of, and I talked about this earlier, but that's okay. We use programs like World Machine. We'll sculpt them ourselves, use Photoshop for that kind of stuff. Where we go with that in the future, they may be procedural, but for now, we're just sort of handcrafting them because we don't want to go completely procedurally generated with a lot of this stuff because it ends up looking not as artistically on a high level that we're shooting for here. So there's an element of procedural generation to the game, but there's also an element of handcrafting to the game. The rules are sort of handcrafted in terms of what the planet gets built out of. Some of the assets are handcrafted, or excuse me, all the assets are handcrafted. But the planet sort of takes those things, combines them based on rules that we supply, and then the planet gets built. So there's, like I said, there's an element of handcraftedness to it, but there's also an element of true procedural generation. No problem, that Jesus. Just wanted to answer your question. So now that we have these big shapes, excuse me, and these little shapes, I'm going to run around and we're just going to sort of see how it starts to feel. And again, just to sort of set expectations, you're not going to see any decorators yet, or any plant life, any flora, stuff like that. We haven't put those in yet. We're going to do that next once we sort of start getting happy with the lay of the land, so to speak. But again, I don't want to die, so I'm gonna let's do this. Let's just so that we can explore a little bit faster. Get myself that guy. No, not that seat. I want this seat. Snap that in there. And again, you won't be able to do this in the game. I'm cheating. One of the benefits of working on the game is that I get to cheat. But just to kind of get an understanding of what this might look like. So yeah, we have these flatter areas that meet into these bigger areas. But one of the things I want to do is we want you to spend more time in individual biomes. We don't need to mix them so tightly together so that you're sort of constantly going in and out of one biome to another. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. But I just quickly wanted to sort of see how this feels. I think it feels pretty good. Thanks, Little Rover. Yeah, this is feeling really good. Feels good from down low, feels good from up high. Will planets have a limit to how high you can make terrain? I want to say no. I think right now there might be in the build, but I think that's superficial and just a problem that came up somewhere down the line that we're going to fix. We certainly have had players build these giant pillars of terrain out to the sky. I think even one of the people in our friends and family beta actually built it so high that when he jumped, he was in zero gravity, or just sort of stuck floating in space. So there isn't really a limit right now. But I think superficially, because there's just something in the code that's doing it, there might be a height thing, but there hasn't been for a long time. That's the best answer I can give you. But again, it's one of those things like you're not just going to be able to do what I'm doing right now. I mean, I think that's the goal, anyways. That eventually this kind of stuff, and maybe not for early access, because again, we want people to sort of jump into terrain deformation and experience it without limits. But you can see, because of the kind of game we're building, that eventually that's going to be something that has a limitation on it. Whether it's, you have to you have to do this. You have to sort of dig up dirt over here so that you can put it over here, and it'll be a trade-off. And obviously, and right now it does have a power consumption behind it. So you won't just be able to, unless we do something like a creative mode or an infinite mode, that eventually you will not be able to just to sort of infinitely build at the sky. But that's more of a resource issue, not a technical issue. That's my understanding of it anyway. And I'm just a lowly 3D artist. How aggressive is your dynamic tessellation? Not seeing a lot of landscape popping, which is great. That's a question for Jacob, which I can sort of point at him later, unless he's watching right now and he wants to chime in. I don't have a question. I don't have an answer for that. I don't notice a lot of popping anymore because I've been looking at this. Certainly, it's there. You can kind of see on my screen right now. There's like a little seam right there, and that's because this bit of terrain is at a lower density than this bit of terrain. But as soon as I were to run there, it obviously stitched together and it would be fine. But in terms of like how aggressive is it and where does it happen and how tunable is that, that would be something that Jay would have to answer for you. Yeah, I guess that's one thing to note is I am not a technically inclined individual. I'm very much pushing polys, 3D modeling, environment artist. My background is in environments. I was an art director at Ubisoft. So I have an art background, not necessarily a robust tech background. There we go. That's a bit more what I was looking for. That big spread between those two biomes. That's really nice. I don't know if this has been asked, but are there things that will be in EA that you haven't told us about? Yes, absolutely. That's all I will say. Sorry. Although, one thing I have noticed actually that I'm looking at this is I've noticed that in that spread, those little guys have they've sort of gone away. So I'm going to quickly check this mofo out, and I'm going to increase by 1,000. Now, I don't know what this is going to do. My anticipation is that it makes it more. No, that didn't do anything. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and undo that. Pipe Dreamer. I was a assistant art director for Ubisoft Toronto. The last thing I worked on there was Watch Dogs 2, and before that was the Assassin's Creed series. Okay, so I've got basic terrain. I'm going to do offline once we're done this stream, just so that we can kind of keep moving forward. What time? We're at an hour here, so I'll come back and I'll start making this a little bit more dynamic, a little rough around the edges, a little bit more natural. But for now, let's get into adding in some decorators. So we have a bit of a yay, Preston. We have a way that we define our decorators, and if I have Max open, I can sort of jump in here. So this is 3D Studio Max, if anybody's not aware. This is what I use for modeling some stuff. So here's some plants that I have. And we have a sort of definition of different kinds of things that you're going to come across in terms of plants. The lowest level of plant life that you'll ever see, which is something just sort of like these little plants here. And ignore the colors, things like that, because that'll changes once it's in the game. These are just called decorators. They're they don't really have a lot of gameplay intention behind them. If they do, it's an organic that you can collect and then spend that organic on like as a fuel resource. But otherwise, they're just there to sort of really set the tone and the atmosphere and the setting of the planet that you're on. And then if we go up a tier, the next thing that we have, and it's a really really dumb name that I came up with. So I'll take all credit for how stupid it is, but it's called a TWT, which literally means things with things. And it's like a larger object that might have something on it for you to interact with. I won't say more than that right now, but that's the idea, is that like if you imagine a giant plinth or a giant rock that's got something for you to sort of grab and do something with, that's called a TWT. And those will happen a lot less common than the decorators. Why don't I just go ahead and move my thing over here where we're in Max. And then higher than that are these things called discoveries, which are usually things that are like somewhat puzzle based, or they sort of challenge the player in some way. And you'll get there's a risk and reward there that you'll get rewarded from. And then the sort of tiers just keep going up and up and up from that. And the more challenging and sort of time that you're going to spend with those objects, the less and less you come across them in the world, so that they feel more special. And then things like grass, weeds, tall plants, things like that, you'll see a lot of them because they're insignificant to the player, but they're significant to the setting. So here's just some stuff that I've modeled, just to give an idea. And then now we'll switch back to Unreal and we'll start getting that stuff in the game. Yes, if anybody's wondering, Riley_SES is our audio designer. He's one of my coworkers, so he's more than qualified to be answering your questions. And Riley, thank you so much for jumping in. Okay, so we have the planets. It's got the little bumpy things. It's got something that kind of resembles a plateau. Like I said, I kind of want to go back to it, but I don't want to sit here and keep noodling on details. I want to keep moving forward. And now we're going to get some decorators in there. And we're going to start with the lowest, most insignificant stuff, which is like grasses and weeds and little plants and stuff like that. So we have the two biomes. We have the flatland and we have the mesa. And I'm going to start adding them to the mesa. And we just add this. Oops, I just knocked my camera. We just add these little things called surface actors. And these are actors, which is an Unreal term, which is just like a combination of scripts and art and visuals and audio and yada, yada, yada. And the surface actors, they get applied to the surface of the planet or wherever we tell it to. And I'm going to name this one Common Decorators. I'm going to save that. And let's start adding in some. So this is an arid planet, and that probably means that vegetation is going to be very low. It's probably very dry. We might see some stuff that you may see in a desert, so things that can survive in that kind of climate. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to start with some rocks. So I'm actually going to say Common Decorators and call it rocks. So I'm going to navigate to where I have these. And we have a good little selection here to choose from. And we're not going to throw everything at it because that would just be silly. We kind of want every planet to have its own little look. So let's just actually go back to our Pinterest board and just get some inspiration here for what we might find on a more arid climate. Now I love this image. I don't know who made it. It's from DeviantArts. It's on my Pinterest here. I'll drop it in the Slack chat, or excuse me, the Twitch chat for you guys. Stuff like that is great. I have a couple pieces in there that we can use in that way, but for now we're just looking for the sort of little noodly stuff, and not even this kind of stuff. I mean, obviously we're going to do more alien versions of this stuff, but I'm looking for like the little rocks on the ground, the sort of the shape of the boulders. Are they flat? Are they slate? Are they round? And then plugging those in. So like they're very round in shape, which is really kind of nice. And I love these guys. These sort of, unfortunately, they're phallic in shape, but they're really kind of iconic, and we have those as well. So let's do some round, and then let's pop it off. Oh, this is nice. Oh, we're definitely doing this. We are doing this. Okay, we'll do that on the mesa stuff, and we'll do the round and the more phallic one on the flatland. So I know I've got a few round ones here. Round varied. We're going to plug that guy in. Round spread, we're going to plug that guy in, and what I'll do is I'll get these guys in, and then we can sort of talk about what that means. So I want round spread to show up mostly. I'm going to change its importance to 1.5. I'm going to add in two more, just some basic rock shapes, and these are somewhat of a common shape in our game, but that's okay. because they're not really there to wow you. They're just sort of there to ground you in the location that we're in. So I've supplied a little list of these common decorators. You know what? Screw it. This is not Earth. We can put some flat stuff in there. Maybe this arid planet also has some flat stuff. So now we have some round, we have some flat, we have some basic stuff. And all I'm going to say is that anytime you generate this planet, I only want the game to choose 2 of them at a time. So in this case, I've supplied 6. It's got an option of 2. And it'll just, every time it generates, it'll just pick 2 from the list. And I can change how important that is and how important individual ones are. For instance, I want this round one to show up a little bit more than others, so I've just increased the number a tiny bit so that it has a better chance of being chosen every time the game rolls the dice and tries to do that. So I'm going to hit save. And then just super quickly, I'm going to add a uncommon decorator. Or I'm going to, a surface actor again. And I'm going to say uncommon TWT, which again is thing with thing. And if you see me interact with the thing with thing, there's just a little green cube on it right now because we've sort of plucked them out so that we don't divulge the kind of stuff that you might be finding on them. Where are they? They are, let's see, scenarios, that's not it, discoveries. I'm looking for a thing called a bubble rock. And this is a barren climate, so I'm going to plug in the barren variation. Which one's this one? O1B barren, let's plug that guy in. And O2 as well. And I'm going to say choose all of them. And we're going to lower that down so it doesn't happen as frequently as the grass, or excuse me, as the rocks. Let's go ahead and hit save on that. And we're starting in the flatland, so hopefully we should see these changes right away. Plus my little rock cubes, which have been in there the whole time. And as this builds, I'm just going to sort of check chat really quickly here. Yeah, if you guys are interested in the editor, I mean, there's no such thing as an Astroneer editor. We just use the Unreal Engine. So that guy is way too big, so we're going to shrink him down. I'm also going to give myself some oxygen here. So I usually just check and make sure my stuff's coming in, so we can see the cube rocks. But what I'm looking for are those smaller rocks that I added in. So we can see the big guys here. Gonna run past him. And oh, there's some of the round rock. So yeah, it's spawning in. Okay, we're in a good shape here. I think what I might do is I might decrease the frequency of these cubes and increase the frequency of these other rocks because I think they're more important to the visual of it. And actually, I'm going to change those cubes so they're not so big. Let's do all of that stuff really quickly here. So flatlands, I want to increase these guys. I'm going to go 0.2. So that's double. I know that number doesn't mean anything. It actually doesn't mean much to me. It's just a number. So it was at 0.1 density. Now it's at 0.2. That means it's going to be twice as dense. I'm going to quickly go to those. Oh, this is why I had double rocks. Okay, that makes sense. So let's get rid of these rocks. Those cubes. Which ones are these ones? Rock cubes, scattered 2. I'm gonna change that up a little bit. No, I'm not. I'm gonna go scattered 1, scattered 2. Draw both, save. What was the other thing? So I wanted to increase the frequency of the rocks, of the round rocks, decrease the frequency of the cube rocks, but I also wanted to do something else. I wanted to change the size of the bubble rock, the more phallic one. But that'll require a bit of work that I can't just do with one quick change. So let's just skip it, and I will accept them as the size that they are. Pipe Dreamer, thank you so much for watching, man. That's awesome you stayed up so late. Myself and the rest of the team appreciate that. I do not want to play from where my camera is. I want to play from the default. Will we get to name planets? I don't know. Do you want to name your planet? Like officially? Do you want to like put a sign up and say this is called Pay No Attention Reddit planet? Okay, so I'm seeing some of the cubes. Oh, oh, oh. Unreal's stuttering here for a second. Let's just let it figure itself out. Chop, chop, chop. Come on. Wake up. Oh, there we go. Okay. So we're getting some of the round stuff. There's a little bit of grass, which is okay because it's not everywhere. You know, there might be a little bit of grass that grows on an air planet. And I think we're gonna have to jump in and make a new decorator just for those mesas. But I have an idea of how to do that really quickly. And you know what? Just to set the atmosphere, and I can do this super quickly. Let's make it look really windy inside of kind of dusty and lots of sand blowing around because I think that's probably a strong characteristic of an arid planet. Now I'm not going to do that everywhere. I'm just going to do that on the flatlands. So I'm going to add another surface actor. And I've already got something made up for this that we can use, so I don't have to spend any time on that. I'm going to call this billow because it's sort of like a dust billowing. And I have one called ambient billow. Actually, I want dune. I want a dune one. Ambient dune blow small. Let's do that. Let's save that. This might be a little crazy, but let's check it out. Hey, yeah, any music you guys hear is our in-game music. I've got it playing in the background, or I did. Let me turn that up. There you go. It's a little bit louder now. And yeah, it's great. Nice and chill. So let's see if I can find some of this dust billow that I just threw in here. Ugh. I'm not seeing... Did I screw that up? Let's take a little look here. Arid, flatland, billow, 0.1. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna plug that in there. And I'm just going to be stupid and say 0.5 just to kind of force it on my screen, and then we can always tone it back. I'm going to Mohan Hedge. Are all the planets and moons kind of tidally locked as of now? Yes, they are. And the reason for that is we just need to test the game. And stuff like simulating the full solar system is very expensive for us to do. Not from a monetary cost, but from a rendering cost. So we have a lot of that stuff turned off for now, just so that we can really focus on making the individual experiences fun. But as we sort of grow that and you know, get more confident in those things, we'll start to sort of flip switches, and the solar systems will start to get. I'm going to say this, but I don't quite mean it. But they're going to start to get more scientifically accurate. But really, I just mean we're just going to take inspiration from physics. Oh, I can see some of the dust blowing, although not a lot. I certainly thought it would be a lot more. So let me just walk around. And you know what? While I'm trying to make this place feel a little bit more like an arid planet, why don't I just quickly do a fog pass as well? So the fog is white. I don't like white for this one. I think it needs to be red because I think an arid planet is always going to have a sort of that color to it, or I would like it to. But the good thing is that the fog is going to stay the same color, which is going to be the sort of red color that I'll give it, and then the colors of the planet itself will change. So when I go back and choose color palettes, I want to choose colors that are complementary to that fog color. And again, that fog color is going to be red. So let's get some of that going here. So there's the sort of ceiling of the fog, which we don't really see too much of when we're on the planet. We see it more from space. So you can see as I dive down here, we kind of lose a bit of it. I'm gonna make this more of a red. Not that red, or maybe that red. I don't know. I should never actually say no just right away. And then we're going to decrease the fall off. Ooh, look at that. Let's see here. What do I want to do? I want to... So I can show you what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of changing the thickness of it, and that actually has an effect of how it looks when it's on the ground. But I can sort of show you some of the values I went through really quickly. So that's sort of closer to the ground, and it's got a very sharp fall off. Sorry, my sensitivity is cranked up. So from the ground, it kind of looks like this. It's very red. And one thing that we could do for shits and giggles is just give the sun flare a bit of a more complementary color. Let's just save that. I'm going to run around. I think this is going to be too striking, if that is possible, but who cares? Let's check it out. So you guys are sort of talking about the persistency of the planets and stuff. So, Midikins, when you launch the game, you're going to be in your instance of the game every time. There's no getting around that. It's going to be your version of the game, your Astroneer, and then when you, as the game, I should mention, as the game is sort of settling itself and getting less chunky, and that happens every time I launch it in Unreal. Sometimes the collision gets broken, so you'll see me fly through. That you'll be in your own instance, and it's not until you join a friend's game at launch that you'll be playing in a quote unquote shared world. So you don't have to worry too much about that. I don't know. I look at this. I think this is too bright. It is very striking, but again, I'm trying to take some inspiration from those reference images that we had, and I mean, I can't argue that does not look. That looks pretty. Here, I'll also show you something else that I can do that I usually do sometimes really for testing, is I can actually just screw around with the time of day. So I can scale it. So sometimes you'll see when we do screenshots, I've always got sort of the sun, all sexy light just coming over the hill like that. Look at that. There we go. Mwah! We can just sort of run around. But I mean, I think colors like this are a little too rich. I think I kind of want to just tone it down just a little bit. And then I might actually bring the fog a little closer to the player, so it feels very thick feeling. This almost starts to get a little Marsy with the red ground, but that sort of light teal atmosphere. Yeah, it's this color right there, that really sharp red that I'm just kind of like, I think I just need to take it down a notch. By the way, I think I've said notch twice, and apparently if you say notch 3 times, it'll just show up. Oh, that was 3 times, so if that happens, apparently he shows up. Okay, I'm just going to turn that sort of raspberry color down a little bit. Clouds. That is a fantastic question that we had about an hour meeting about yesterday as we try to figure out how we do them. So we all know, like as developers, we know how we can jump in and there's techniques to make clouds, but because our art style is what it is, we can't just sort of be like, oh, I'll just take that technique that we used for this game and apply it here, because it's just not that applicable. So we had a bit of a tech meeting to sort of talk about how we're going to achieve clouds. And clouds in our game are important for a lot of reasons. They set the atmosphere, but they're also great for us to use for weather. And weather is a big proponent of that, of surviving on these planets. So I'm going to say yes, that we're probably going to have clouds. Whether or not it's in early access, I can't say, because again, it depends on how big of a hurdle we're going to jump over to get the look that we want in the art style that we have, and also have that be performant. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to go about it. But I think the answer on that one's yes. But just when, fingers crossed, it's in before EA. But I can't commit to that. So I'm going to turn that sort of reddy color down, and I'm just gonna start with a saturation. I'm gonna start with the saturation. See, that's a little more like it. There we go. And then maybe just sort of shift the hue in the. Oh, Unreal does this thing where if you move the sliders around, it likes to chug as it sort of figures out what value it needs to land on. So we'll just give it a second here to figure out. Midikins, yeah. Actually, that atmosphere is still on that moon, and if you want, I can always go back and load that up again. I said it at the beginning of the stream that moon is actually going to be in the game. It's been tweaked heavily, or not heavily, but it's been tweaked. And if I get a chance here at the end, I will run us through it. Okay, so what was I doing? I was changing the hue of that to go more in the direction of red. So now that we're over there, I did it again. I'm such a dummy. So that's orange. What am I doing? Here we go. Let's go red. Slightly decreased. And then from the planet, or from the space, it looks pretty cool. I'm going to change that nighttime fog to be something funky. And let's just quickly jump back in, see how that looks. Jesus, thanks, dude. Thanks for joining, man. Oh, damn. Like my buddy Jesus. What's up, man? Sorry, I didn't know that you were on. Thanks for joining. Oops, let's hide that. Let's make sure I don't die. Yeah, I think that's looking pretty cool. I like those colors. That's right. So now this is starting to feel, I feel, like an Astroneer arid planet. It's a little bit richer in color. The palettes are there. It's, if we look at the inspiration again, and I'll do that while the game's running, is that none of this stuff is the colors are as striking, but you can kind of start to see the influences that we take from it. I'm so excited to do this next. Yeah, we're doing that right away. But you can kind of see, like I said, just the inspirations that we're taking for some of the shapes. We could put some of these hoodoo rocks that are in there if we want to. I've got some of those kicking around. We're going to do some big mountains eventually before we close this thing off. I think if I do a third biome, I'm going to do one that has these sort of tufts on it. Anyway, let's get back. Let's cycle through this really quickly just to kind of get an idea of what the daytime looks like. Here's nighttime. It's pretty dope. I'm gonna speed it up again. I want to see that sunrise. Where's that sunrise? Let's go back and look at that again. Let's speed up time just so we can kind of accelerate through this. Nice. I like the colors. I really like that color back there. Just toning it down just a little bit, I think, was the right idea. All right. So let's recap really quickly here. We've got 2 biomes on this planet. I think at the end we're probably going to have 4, maybe 5 biomes, but for now right now we have 2. One of them has a first pass on the kind of decorators on it. We took some inspiration from some of the images on Pinterest. Or I did anyway. There was some round rocks. We took some liberties and threw in some flat stuff. There was that sort of phallic shaped rock that I thought was really cool because it has a good shape language to it, and it's really noticeable from a distance, which is very important. Actually, one thing I need to do is make sure that it's very noticeable from a distance, so I'll just do that now. We've got a bit of the cube rocks, but now we have that mesa stuff, and that stuff is looking pretty bare. So let's fix that. Before we jump in, actually, any questions that you guys want me to answer so far about the stuff I've shown? I'll give it a few seconds here before we jump in. Yeah, I mean, rings on planets are a big one for sure. Let me see if we can find a really old image that we used when we were exploring some stuff. Yeah, here, check this out. That would be kind of neat, I think, to see. That's a really, really old image. But yeah, being able to see like little asteroid belts close to your planet would be kind of fun. Okay. Oh yeah, the mesa. So let's get some funky stuff on there, and I want to get those big giant spiky rock things. Actually, let's do that first. So how do I want to go about this? I gotta think for 1 second here about the assets that I have available, and then how I want to construct it. So really quickly, meshes, rocks. I'm just gonna take a quick little look at what I got available. Oh, I know how to do this. Okay. So we're gonna go rocks collections. Just gonna open up one really quickly to see what I have. Perfect. This is gonna be called. Oh, actually, it looks like I've already got something. I'm gonna duplicate this one, and we're just gonna play with its assets. Collection underscore rockspire scattered 01. Oh, 091. That's not right. I gotta rename that. What's the question about the third person issue? I'm trying to see if I can see that. With that, rings, any plans for interiors that will actually view from the inside? Any plans for interiors that we actually view from the inside? I struggle to feel at home making stations and the bases of Kerbal because I can only ever see them from the outside. That's a really good point. And it's certainly, early on, we had one shot, or one thing that we always sort of viewed from the inside. There's definitely a want for that kind of stuff from the team. So I'm going to say probably. Whether or not you're going to see that in early access, I would be doubtful right now because just based on what I know of our plan going into early access, I don't think we have any of that stuff in there. But you know, it's I would be surprised if we don't ever do something like that. It's just sort of when it happens, I'm unsure of. And unfortunately, a lot of my answers you might hear me say it that way, and that's just sort of the nature of the beast. Is that we have goals for early access, but of course, stuff once we're in early access, and if it's things that people are asking for while we're in early access, then of course we're going to look at putting that stuff in the game. But if you're asking, you know, are you going to see that in early access? My gut feeling it says no, but you know, anything. Or excuse me, are you going to see it when we launch early access? My gut feeling is no, but anything is possible anytime after that. Okay, so rock, and I call them spires because they have this sort of spire shape to them. They're thin rocks that are tall, but what I want to do is I want to give them a big grouping. So we're going to test them before we apply them, and the way we do that is we go back, and we're going to go back to just having a bald planet. So I'm going to disable the biomes. I'm going to save my work because that's always important. If I rebuild it, this should be baby smooth. There we go. I'm going to add a surface actor, and it's going to be the rocks that I want to throw at the mesa biome, and we're going to rebuild just to kind of get a quick look. Nope, those aren't the ones I wanted, but that's okay. Where are we now? Let's work on those. Because we can always, like, I kind of like the properties of them. Like, I like the scale or the, you know, the surface area that it takes. I actually might go even a little bit bigger. But these guys are way too angry looking rocks that I'm looking for. I want something a little bit more dull, and I think I got the right stuff for that. Okay, so we're going to open this up. And I'll show. I can actually kind of explain, and hopefully this isn't too boring, but I can explain what's going on here. So, think if you can ignore all the other guys around it, let's just look at this guy that's right there in the center of the screen. If you look at with the little cubes, you can kind of see that there's a perimeter of a circle that goes around it. And if you think of that as a volume, of a giant cylindrical volume, that'll be helpful here. So there's this little volume that we have here, and that is what this is here. And if I switch over, you can kind of see it right here. So you can see this volume here, and if I click and click, there's a few more in there. So for instance, this guy is very tight in the middle, whereas this one is big and fat and goes all the way around. And then what we're doing is, you can kind of see it here. So if I open this up, there's this asset right here. So there's one of these big aggressive spiky rocks. And I'm saying, take this spiky rock, put it in this volume, raycast it from the sky. And raycasting is basically just imagine a point and then you're drawing it straight down. And anytime it hits terrain, I'm saying, put this guy down there, put it there between a scale of half of its normal scale to double of its normal scale. And I want you to do that 10 times. And then I do that again on this one, and I do something like that on this one. Again, with different shapes. This one's the cubes. This one's another one. And that's just sort of how this stuff gets built. Now, every time we do that, the orientation of them is going to be different. The location of them is different. The scale of them is different. And then we can do a bunch of variations of these sort of rules and then throw that at a planet. And so we're getting a lot of variation out of that little system. But for now, we're just sort of focused on one. And I'm going to start completely fresh on this guy. So now that I've deleted it, if I hit rebuild, we'll notice it's cut down dramatically. So now it's just like this. Just 1 second, sorry. What was the gravity question? Is it do different planets have different gravities or levels of gravity? If that's the question, then absolutely, they definitely do. That's the thing that I can say we have. Okay, so what I'm trying to build again is I'm trying to build a little collection of stuff that I can make look like something like this. Oops, here we go. Oh, there. Oh, jeez. Something that I can kind of like do something like this with. Like, it's not going to be quite like that, but this is the kind of thing I'm taking my inspiration from. And these guys are tall and skinny, but nothing like those guys. So the first thing I'm going to do is try to find a replacement for them. And I don't think I've got anything here, but I do think if I go, oops, shard, static mesh only. Yeah, I think I'm going to take a mixture of a few things here. So I'm going to take that guy and plug it in there, but I'm going to say I only want to do one because I just want to see the scale first. I'm going to save it because I think this guy is pretty big. So rebuild. Yeah, there's one there. Now I'm going to make it say like 6. I'm going to duplicate. I'm going to find the other one, which is just a variation of the same mesh. And I'm actually going to push this out so it's like 4,000 radius. Big fat cylinder. And because these guys are really big, and then I'm going to say scale from the center. Oops. 6 of them. 6 of them, 0.5. So we're not going to get any scaling, but I'm going to rebuild just to kind of get an idea of how thick it is. Okay, sweet. Now I'm going to actually change the scale. So I'm going to 0.1 to 0.6. And oops, excuse me, 0.5 to 0.1. Wait, mesh scale, no. Sorry, it's getting late for me. So what is hopefully going to happen is if we think about that volume again, that sort of cylindrical volume, that the big guys are going to be in the middle, and as it draws them closer to the edge, they'll shrink in scale. So in the beginning, they'll be half the size of the initial mesh, and then towards the end, they will be 1/10 of the size of the original mesh. And let's just see what that looks like. And I'm going to change the density just to kind of get rid of some of the save. Gonna rebuild. Uh-oh, I lost them all. 0.02. Yeah, so this is kind of what I can see now. The circle's really big, and that just means I'm going to throw more at it. Because I want that. Actually, maybe that circle is too big. Let's go down to 3,000. And I'm also going to increase this from 6 of them to, let's do 50% more, so 9 of them. Save, rebuild, getting there, getting there. And then let's do something funky like a random orientation on them, so 0.2. And their orientation just means, like, right now they're kind of just drawing straight up from the planet, straight up. And what I want to do is have it sort of be able to do a bit of a turn when it comes in, a bit of a rotation. So I'm going to save my work. That's always important. Sorry guys, I haven't checked the chat in a second, so I'm just going to rebuild this and then I'll take a little look. That rotation was not nearly enough. Actually, maybe it was. Let's rebuild and see what happens. Oh, that's looking kind of cool. I'm gonna do something crazy, and I'm gonna double the amount of stuff. No, I'm not gonna double it. That's crazy. That'll be too much. But I'm gonna do 15. I'm gonna add. We're now more than double with the original. Let's rebuild the new one. Yeah, that's looking a little bit more menacing. Again, I just gotta wait for Unreal to kind of finish figuring out all the fancy scripting and code and all the other magic that goes on behind the scenes, because it's a little unperformant when it does that. I like the scale. I like the proximity. All right, let's get these guys on an actual world. Before we do that, we can't just throw rocks at it and say like, oh, that's done. We got to kind of flourish it a little bit more. I think the word I use on the team is just make it a little sexier. And the way we do that is we just give it some accented props. So why don't I actually bring this guy in by a little bit? Save. What does that look like if I do that? That's pretty cool. And I'm gonna do 0.08 to 0.3. Cool. So now you can really see as the ones get closer to the middle, they kind of get big and tall. I'm going to save that. But we need some more stuff, so I'm going to add another mesh distribution components. This is I'm going to call it sexy. That's what it's going to make it do. Now what do I want to do? Do I want to do more rocks, or do I want to do maybe like a little plant or something? Let's take a look at the rocks really quickly. Meshes, rocks, let's see. Yeah, this guy might be kind of good to do. What was that radius again? That was 3,000. Definitely don't want. Oh, maybe I want 50 of them. Screw it. Let's put 50 of these guys in and see what happens. I think that's going to be overkill, but we can always tune it back. Plug that guy in. Terrain normal. We're going to go 0.3 for orientation. Save. And I'm not even going to preview it. We're just going to jump in and see what it looks like. Foxblood Rain says you should add a few of those specky ones. All right, I'll put a couple of them in. Let's just take a look at this really quickly. A little too much of the little guys, and I think actually they could stand to be a little smaller. So I'm gonna go from 50 to 20. And we're going to go min scale of half. And I don't know, screw it. A max scale of 1.5. Oops, 1.5. And somebody asked for the spiky ones, so let's go ahead and I'll add those. So I'm going to say spiky, and we're going to plug these guys in. And we're only going to do 5 of them. And then duplicate that. So I'm going to say spiky 2. Then we're going to give it the other one. And collision, 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 collision. Okay, save. Fingers crossed. This is cool. But you never. Oh, wait, 3,000. 3. Oh no, that's the raycast. Oh, that's we're fine. Save. Rebuild. Oh damn, those spiky guys are big. So I'm gonna tone them down. I'm gonna go 0.1 to 0.5. 0.1 to 0.5. Save. Sorry guys, I'm trying to fly through this just so we can kind of get back at looking at the planet as a whole. Okay. Cool. Save. I'm gonna come on, hurry up. I'm gonna remember what that is. I'm gonna get rid of that. We're gonna add. Let's go ahead and rebuild this. Save. Okay, so we're looking at a ball planet. I'm gonna turn that biome back on, or the biomes back on. Let's just get a look at what that looks like now. Damn. That's not what I wanted, but that looks wow. Sorry, I did not mean to swear, but that looks pretty damn cool. I'm gonna run around that, even though I'm gonna change it a little bit. Now this is way too dense. Although it does look badass, doesn't it? I don't know if I. Whee! I gotta fix that. That's an easy fix. Look at this one. Let's get this big guy out of here. Yeah, I'll fix that so they don't pop out like that. Okay, I don't want these guys on that biome. So, in fact, I didn't even think that they were in that biome. Yeah, so Rock Duck, I agree. It looks really, really good. But one of the things that we need to do is I need to sort of start. I end up spreading a lot of that sort of sexy out at this. I don't have a better word. It's way too late for me to think of smarter words here. But I try to spread the sexy stuff out a little bit, so it's not all getting tossed into one biome. So we are going to see these guys, and they're going to be super impressive. But they're just going to be on a different biome. So I'm going to turn this guy off. I'm going to copy him. I'm going to put him in the mesa. And we're going to say, actually, this is going to be the uncommon decorator. So I don't want it to happen as often as grass happens, but I want it to happen a lot. And we're going to go open 2, which is fine. This is on the mesa. So if I rebuild it, they should go away off the screen here. And then if we do a bit of exploring, we should find them again. So let's go jump around and see if we can find them. The big white circle, that is probably just either an empty planet that I just have floating in the scene. Let's take a look. Let me see if I can find this big white circle. Oh, this white circle? If you're talking about the one on the ground, that's my cursor. So we have a diegetic cursor, we have one that's in the game, and then we have a 2D one that's sort of more like a Windows cursor. If you're talking about that white circle, that's another planet that I showed earlier, and it's just kind of off in the scene, so it's just kind of sitting there. And then if it's that white circle, that's the sun. Is there anything else? Maybe there's another one. So I'm going to take a walk. I want to see if I can find... you know what? We're not going to find them very fast if I don't change. I'm going to rebuild once more. Play. Yeah, so there's 7 types of planets, but that doesn't mean that you're only ever going to see 7 planets in the game. The 7 types is different than just like 7 straight planets. So we take our, and I can repeat this again. That's no problem. So we take our inspiration from like 4X games out there. So things like Sins of the Solar Empire or Masters of Orion. And we sort of take inspiration from that in terms of planets. So we're going to have planets that are like Terran based, which is more Earth-like, an arid planet, which is what we're building now. And as we create new biomes for them, we feed that to the system. And it's just like everything else where, for instance, the Terran planet might have 6 or 7 full biomes for it, but we're only ever going to ask it to build a planet out of 3 of them at a time. And they're all complementary to each other. So every time the 3 that it chooses get rearranged, it should be nice and cohesive and feel like a planet, not like a random mishmash of ideas and things like that, which I think is kind of some of the stuff that we've shown. So by going after planet types, and there's like other ones like radiated, there's tundra, that the planets they get built within a lock set of rules, so that it feels like you're traveling through different types of planets, and not just a mishmash of every biome that we have in the game. Okay, so I'm quickly looking for that rock stuff to get. So I actually am going to give myself a rover, spawn object. I need that guy, I need a seat. Oh, thank you, and I need something to power it. Let's get out of here. Let's go find those spiky rocks. And again, just to reiterate, because there's probably some new people watching, I'm working out of the editor right now. Our game and the editor are both in progress. So things like performance, things like behavior, it might crash. I'm actually really surprised it hasn't crashed. Those things are all bound to happen. So it's not indicative of what the product will be on Steam. In fact, the friends and family beta that we do is it's running at anywhere between 30 and 60 frames. It's very performant and nice. I'm not seeing those spiky guys. I may have to increase their density just so that we do come across them more. So this is a biome that we haven't really worked on. It's the one we're working on now, and that's why there's a lot of sort of flatter areas. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to increase the density of those spikies because I want to see them. 0.0. Let's do 0.05. Save. I think that's going to be too dense, but that's okay. Let's play. So again, I'm going to cheat just because I want to make sure that those spiky guys are spawning, so I'm going to fly around. You will not be able to do this in the game. This is just a sort of developer tool for me to quickly jump from one spot to another to find stuff. And right now I'm looking for those spiky guys. Okay, what's going on here? Did I not enable them? Let's go back here. It's arid. Nope, did not enable it. So this whole time I've been looking for them, and the actual problem was that I am an idiot. So let's play. Quick little look around. I don't see them right away. Let's fly through. All right, you guys, where are you? Show yourselves. Well, this is no fun. Where'd they go? I'm just gonna crank up the density here. Did I not even add them? Let me see here. Uncommon Decorator, Rockspire Scattered 01. Smofo is enabled. So let's crank it up to something fierce. Let's hit play. Yeah, I am the wrong person to ask like techie stuff. Like in terms of like I said, the specs on the build and the specs on my computer. We obviously want to shoot as low as possible. Of course, I see the specky guys right away. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, we want the game to run on as low as a spec as possible. So I'm not too concerned about any of that stuff. And if you like I said, if you're noticing like right now it's really laggy and it's probably like 10 frames a second. This is just I'm in the editor right now. It does a lot of different stuff that doesn't happen when the game is built, and it always corrects itself. So it's like every time I run the game in the editor, it has to go through a bunch of heavy lifting, and then you'll notice, which is kind of happening right now. You'll notice that I get my frames back. So this is the kind of visual stuff that we want to see. We want to see stuff from a distance and have that pull you into it. So I've seen one. Let's see if we can find another. Alright, so they're definitely there. They are showing up, which is good. What would you say was the team's biggest hurdle with planet generation? I'm not sure. I mean, a lot of the heavy lifting happened from Jacob before he started tackling a lot of our game design. I mean, from a technical side, that's really a question for him to answer. I think for me, in terms of making them look good, it was that switch from, our original approach to planets internally was let's make easy planets, let's make average difficulty planets, let's make hard planets. And then when we decided to, from a recommendation from a friend, to maybe think of them more thematically, that all of a sudden opened up. It's kind of weird. Thematically, it actually ends up adding rules and sort of tighter limits, but because of that, that means that the themes of every planet are a lot stronger. So if you go back and look at some of our planets, I think a few people have commented saying it looks like sherbet ice cream. Now, those colors are still going to be in the game, but a lot of that happened because it was just a mismatch of different kinds of biomes without really any proper direction behind them. And the new stuff, the stuff that I'm building now, for instance, this arid planet, it's got a bit of a bounds on it. The limits of where I can go with stuff. There's not a lot of plants in here. It's not very exotic, but it means I get to explore things like really sandy feeling, really dusty. What does a planet with more rocks than more vegetations do, and what does that do from a design side? Like, one of the main resources in the game is this thing called organic, and that comes from sucking up plants from the planet that you're on. And if you're not on a planet that has a lot of plants, like how do we offer those organics to the player in a different way? So it's a trade-off. It's weird. It's like by offering these or by introducing these rules to these planets, we end up actually having very, very more cohesion behind the theme, which I think is very important for the immersion. We are a low poly game with bright colors, and it's not really realistic in that way, but we still take our inspirations from real life, and now we're just applying that to how we build planets. Okay, so we've got that one biome, or excuse me, that one uncommon decorator, and we probably want a couple more. So I'm just going to throw in a couple more here, because we really don't want just, sometimes you want a planet, you want a version of this planet that doesn't have those big spiky things, and we need to be able to do that. Let's see here, decorators. Now, I think one of those images that we saw, they kind of like hoodoo rocks. Let's see here. Where did I see it? It's kind of like this guy. These guys are always kind of cool. Where was that one? Yeah, there we go. So you can kind of see these like larger sort of hoodoo style rocks, and let's throw. I've got some of those modeled already, so let's throw some of those on this planet. And we'll keep that on the mesa. So I'm going to add. I think I just call it Who Rock. Again, my names are not. I didn't get a job writing and naming things, so my names are always quite terrible. So Who Baron, Who O2 Baron. Let's just add them all in there. O1 Baron, and you know what? I'm actually going to. I might put the Who's in their own, just so that they spawn at a different density than the spiky guys. But we still give them choices so that they're not the same rocks every time. So I'm going to say uncommon decorator Who. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I think there's a fourth one. Let's add that. And I'm going to say every time you do it, do 2 of them at a time. And then I'm going to take out those guys from here. I'm going to do 0.05 on that guy. These guys are going to get an 0.06. Actually, I'm going to limit that guy. I'm going to 0.025. And you know what? I'm going to start from. So these are the common decorators. These are like the silly rocks. I'm going to say decorator rocks, but I want to do a new one. I want to do another one that is some plant life. Because just because it's arid doesn't mean it's completely void of plant life, but we just want to make them feel more special when you come across them. So they're going to be at a lower density. Decorators. That's not a word. What's the density of the rock? The density is 0.2, so we'll do that at the same density as the rock spire. 0.25. You know what? I'm going to go a little bit more than I'm going to go 0.4. Save that. Let's find some plants. I apologize if there's been some questions asked. I haven't looked over because I'm just trying to quickly fly through this and get some plants on there. And then as I'm running around, I'll look over and see if I can answer some questions. So I want some plants. Let me see. 04, plant life. Where are you? Plants, collections. I want to do the nettle. I'm going to do the other nettle. I'm always a fan of the. I like these rods that I. Oh, I don't want that one though. I want rod. I guess I do want that. Nettle. Cancel that. What else do we have here? Excuse me. No, no. Oh, let's do the banner leaf. I like that one a lot. And I'm gonna say I choose. There's how many is there? There's 6. Let's take half of the list every time. Oops. Save. Rebuild new seed. And you know what? Just for some variety, let's put on one more. I'm putting on one more palette. And I'm just going to see how that looks really quickly as I generate it. I'm going to save everything. Previously, I was the one writing from the SES_dev account, so I believe one of the other guys from work has jumped on there. So that is not me. That is not me talking there. Just as a heads up. Oh, I think we might have our first crash. There it is. Okay. So because I'm a good guy, I'm going to zip that up really quickly. I'm going to quickly share this. Just 1 second. I know this is super exciting, and it's exactly what you guys came to see. But it has to happen anyway, so I'm just going to share this with the team really quickly so that the programmers can... now? Okay. Come on, computer. Figure it out. What do we have going on here? So grab that. Share that. If anybody from the team is watching, I will... I'll give you notes on that bug once the stream is done. Alright. Get out of here, bug. Don't need to see Unreal's all done. Let's launch that again. Not supporting 144. Is that supposed to be 1440? Oh, 144 hertz. I can't comment on that. That's so out of my wheelhouse. Okay, so really quickly we have, just as this game launches, I'm just going to quickly summarize for everybody just to kind of get an idea of what's going on. So we have a planet that has 2 biomes on it, so it's very simple. And we've been putting some decorators on there. Now there's not a lot of gameplay stuff on there, and really that doesn't come from me, that comes from our game designer. So we're just sort of focusing on setting the theme and the style and the atmosphere of it. So we have a planet with 2 biomes. When this game ships, this planet type will have much more than that, but for the stream, I think it's good just to do 2. There's some decorators on it, so I think what I'll do is I'll spend a little bit more time adding a few more decorators. I'll quickly throw in some cave stuff, and then maybe tweak some lighting, and then I don't know, if you guys want, I can run around some of the other planets really quickly. I can field a couple more questions, and then I think we should end it there, because we're hitting 2 hours now. So let's just take a look, and I'll launch this. I'll get rid of my fat head here on the screen. We'll go back to the editor view. This is my other map, so I'm going to quickly load up that Twitch planet map. Okay. So yeah, I was recapping. We have a planet. Oh, there we go. There's two. What is this? There we go. That's kind of funky. So we've got a planet with two biomes. You can kind of see the separation of biomes now right here. Maybe that's a little too much, but that's okay. Let me see here. We have some decorators, but not a lot. We have no caves. So why don't I go ahead and just add caves really quickly? That's very simple to do right now. I'm going to steal caves from another planet. I'm going to take them from Tundra. You know, I'm going to take the mountains from Tundra as well, just because I need a starting place for both of these. And this doesn't mean that the arid planet will have the same mountains or caves as the Tundra planet. This is just the files I need to get started to making sure that those things are different. So we're going to hit save. We're going to back out. We're going to rebuild and see what this does to it. That is an ice mountain. That doesn't make any sense. Not on an arid planet, but that's kind of cool. Look at that. So we're not going to do the ice one. We're going to do just the hard one. Save. Rebuild. Now we have this huge sort of like little cavey thing going on. I'm going to rebuild it one more time. Where'd that mountain go? There it is. Cool. So I'm going to spawn right here and we can walk over to it. The planets in Astroneer do not rotate yet. I talked a bit about that. Jacob's on the chat. Maybe you can talk a bit about why, but it's a bit of a technical reason right now. It's very expensive for us to do that, and we are trying to just sort of test the game, test the experience on the planets. Things like planetary rotations and stuff will come into a factor for us later. But on that stuff, I'm not really the best person to really be talking about. Again, my job is to make stuff try to look good. It's the programmers on the team that focus on other things like that. Oh, let's hide this. So we have a basic start to this arid planet. My feedback for the planet, just from what I've seen of my own work here, is one, I want to go back and make those mesas a bit more mesa-y. I don't want this yellow texture ever to be, or this yellow color ever to be on this planet right now. So I'm going to change that. The caves need work. The mountains need work. The biome count obviously needs to be vastly increased, and I'll just do that sort of tomorrow and as time goes on. But it's got the right kind of setting. It needs a bit more details in the actual atmosphere, so more stuff blowing around. I want it to feel a lot more sandy. I need to bring in a bit more plant life. Like this kind of stuff is kind of cool, these little accenting tall grass pieces. And I'm going to tone down the cave system so they're not doing these giant, like that's a giant hole down there that I do not want to fall down. That just doesn't fit right for this kind of planet. Yeah, so that's sort of where this is at. I think that's good for the stream. I was able to show, again, it was kind of like the moon one. I was able to show how we build them and sort of how we do stuff. I think something new for the stream was that we got to jump in and look at how decorator systems get built. Let's kind of speed this up a little bit. Let's lock that down. Yeah, so I'm going to produce some more biomes. Obviously, we'll get the more gameplay stuff in here. Tweak the colors. I really want to work on the mesa stuff so that it actually properly feels like I'm walking in between these mesas. One of the height maps I had early on had a bit of that going on that I'm going to go back to. But the good news is now that I have a lot of this sort of decorator stuff in there, as soon as I start making changes to that height map, it already starts to look like a fuller planet because it's got these rocks and stuff to pull from. All right, sweet. So this is this is a really good first pass, I think, for this planet. And tomorrow, I'm going to wrap this one up. I'm going to do all the other biomes really quickly. I'll be able to just to fly through it because I'm not necessarily working on. I'm making sure I'm communicating this stuff. That's kind of a cool little mixture of two different things. And here's one of those little green things I was talking about that will eventually be something more interesting. I'm just going to pluck it off and stick it in your backpack. I'm sure I'm going to have to change the density of some of this stuff just for performance reasons to make sure that the game is running as smooth as possible. But yeah, I think this is a good start. And because this stuff goes so smoothly, I think I'm just going to keep doing some streams as often as I can. I know we try to commit to them, but with the team being so small, it's always kind of hard to find the time to do them. But the good news is that I actually did work tonight, so it's not like it's stuff that I just kind of throw away. Yeah, let me just quickly take a look at the questions here, and then if there's not much else going on, I think I'll just end it. Yeah, that's actually a good idea. That this screenshot Saturday could be from this planet. I really like that idea. So why don't we do that? All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. That was awesome. Thank you so much. And obviously, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Astroneer Game. And yeah, that was awesome. Thank you so much for joining, guys.